everybody out there in Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube or wherever you're watching this. Happy Friday. Super excited to be here today. And I am being joined by the quiz queen, Catharine O'Leary. Welcome, Catharine. How are you doing this fine Friday?
Oh, I'm doing excellent. Thank you, Tiffany, and thank you for having me on.
So excited to have you. Now, where in the world are you?
So I'm just about an hour and a half north of Toronto. So
All
up in
right.
the Great White North.
So we're East Coast, just very far apart on the East Coast because I'm coming in from Tampa, Florida.
Very far apart on the East Coast, yes.
Now, what's the weather like up there?
You know what? Today it's a little rainy. Yesterday was hot as anything. It's, August. August can be very humid here and quite hot. So we got well, it's in Celsius, but we got up to about 30 degrees Celsius, and very humid. So anytime that it's that hot and humid, we usually get some rain. So I think the weekend is actually going to be rainy, which is kind of nice. It's a nice break from the heat.
Gotcha. Yeah, here it rains every day, but just for a few minutes or a couple hours, and then the sun comes out to play. Yeah, 2023 was my year to learn Celsius. I'm like, I'm going to figure out this conversion from Celsius to Fahrenheit. It's just always hot in Florida, though.
Yes, yes.
All right, so they call you the quiz queen. You want to tell us what that's all about?
Yeah. So I didn't, want to I didn't grow up being wanting to be the quiz queen because that's not the thing. I wanted to be the Wolf of Wall Street. Like that was
Ooh.
my gig. I was like, yeah, let's take on Bay Street and Wall Street and all the streets. And so I went to school. I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in economics. And when I started my career, I actually was very fortunate to work with a mentor of mine and a prior professor in a boutique market research firm. So we were doing a lot of, high-end econometrician, statistician modeling around consumer behavior. So, essentially, when you have, say, two cars on a lot and they are the exact same, right down to the tires, exact same make, model, all the options, everything is the same, but one color, like one is black and one is red. The red one tends to outsell the black one. That's interesting. That's like, why do consumers like, what's the lever there? Obviously, consumers place some value on the color red, all other things being equal. So we got into some of that modeling and some of those conversations with the likes of Apple, HP, and Adobe around their products and services and what they could, either add or promote or message around their products and services to best really meet their clients' needs. So, I asked a lot of questions of a lot of people globally in surveys and helped corporate to, take that information and, create new products and services and messaging and sales conversations.
So I am curious, as somebody that's owned four cars in my life, three of which are red. Why is red like the sell better than the black?
There is an actual utility that you get from having a red car. It makes you feel like you're racy. It makes you feel like it's that red Corvette. Like there's a nostalgia thing going on there. There's a lot of things with the color red that actually kind of mean like go fast, go, go, big, like be bold. What your reasons are, Tiffany, I'm not entirely sure. We haven't delved into that, but those are some of the reasons that people cite.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing, like little things in life that makes a difference. Like I don't think my husband's ever had a red car, and I had a bright blue Mini Cooper two-seater convertible. That was my dream car. That was my last car till I drove it enough, and then my husband's like, "Hey," he showed me a car, and he's like, "What do you think of this car?" And I'm like, "Oh, this looks like a car that I would drive. Sure, I can get it." I so don't care about cars, but apparently I do maybe a little bit more than I thought if I've had, the three red and bright blue.
It's always it's kind of a shiny object, right? So something to stand out from the crowd.
All right. So you mentioned, a couple of different companies that you worked with. What kind of people are you working with nowadays? What kind of
So
company?
nowadays I work with small and medium-sized businesses to create that client feedback loop. So what corporate does and what, when I was at Pepsi and BlackBerry and Apple, what what those corporations would do is, continually ask questions of their ideal clients to keep on top of, what their desires were, but also what their challenges were. Customers can't tell you what the next widget is going to be. They can't tell you what the next big thing is going to be, but they can tell you what drives them bonkers, right? So, how can you solve for what's driving them bonkers? And that might be different today than it was yesterday. Um, Corporate does that very well. Small and medium businesses tend to skip that step.
Mm.
Either we skip it in client acquisition phase. We don't know enough about our ideal clients, about their pain points, about what's going on in their lives, about what they like and don't like, even about what they buy and don't buy. And then, in kind of the client retention side of things, we don't do enough as small and medium sized businesses to necessarily keep our clients and increase that long term value. It's 5 times more expensive to get a new client in than it is to keep an existing one. And we tend to spend so much time on lead generation and client acquisition, and kind of forget the client retention and the customer success story, that we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. So, being sure that we have those conversations throughout the life cycle of your client and their experience with your services and your business. I mean, that's critical to the relationship and really building that relationship up, and becoming that that known factor, that the people that like you and trust you for advice and next steps and so on. Like, that's what you want to get to. You want to get to that, really building that relationship with your ideal clients so they stay longer. It's good business.
It's such an interesting thing that you hear people all the time talking about, how do I get more clients? How do I get more clients? How do I get more clients? There's not nearly as much conversation around, how do I keep my clients?
Mhm.
Why do you think that
Yeah,
is?
it's been You know, you always have to be out there, and you always have to be, getting clients. Like, that's, you're not going to, start a business and keep your, 100 clients or whatever forever and ever. I mean, that's just not going to happen. I think that what we've gotten so focused on, especially in the kind of the service provider world and the online world, is this idea of, um, the silver bullet or the one trick wonder. Like, if I can just get the Facebook challenge to work, my business will be successful. If I can just get LinkedIn referrals to work, my business will be successful. And people, there's a lot of courses and there's a lot of coaches out there that are talking about these one hit wonders, or talking about these ways to get more clients in, but it's a continual cycle of getting more clients. And I think that the more that you focus on the strategy of keeping your clients, which means that you need to back up your promises. You need to be delivering what you promised, and you need to spend time on those relationships. I know you laugh. It's like, but people have been burned, right? People are, like, a little
All the
skeptical
time,
now
yeah.
yeah, about what they're buying and what they're going to get out of it. And that one hit wonder thing, I think, is, well, I'm kind of hoping that people take it with a grain of salt.
And it is more, it can't just be that one hit. It is about the relationship. And I know you're all about the relationship building. And it's interesting because I talk to people all the time about referral marketing, which I think needs to be renamed relationship marketing. Because when I talk to people about referrals, they're like, well, I'm in this group and I'm in this group. And I'm like, no, no, no. Who are your top 12 referral sources? They're like, you want me to give you names? And I'm like, yeah, you don't get referrals from a group. you get referrals from the relationship. So I know you've got this paradigm shift around relationship building. You want to share a little bit more with that, and then we'll get into some of the fun stuff.
Yeah, so I think that, and I think that we're well underway for a paradigm shift away from transactional conversations, away from that push energy, away from that buy it in 2.4 seconds, otherwise it's going to go away forever until the next 2.4 seconds when it comes back. And people are tired of the kind of the fake news, the fake urgency,
Mm.
the this will solve your problem, this will get you to $1 million, like this one thing will solve all of your problems and you will have the lifestyle of your dreams. And I think that people are now wanting to know, okay, what's backing that up? How are you gonna help me get there? And what's the relationship that we're gonna have in order to get to those success metrics? So that, like, moving away from that kind of used car salesman to more of that, be a good neighbor, and you know, um, check on the house when the fire alarm's going off or something, like don't just like walk away. Like be that person that is, hey, how's it going? Oh, wow, that's not meeting your expectations. Let's talk about that. Let's figure out what we can do about it. I think that people got into such a, if I can just, create a membership for $37 if I get 1,000 people in it, and then I don't have to do anything other than, have it make money for me. That's transaction, not relationship. So I think that people that focus on transactions only are going to get left behind. And the people that really focus going forward on building those relationships, building up that trust, building up those communities, are gonna be the ones that are creating the industry and are the innovators and the leaders in their respective sectors. And if you're not doing it, you're gonna get left behind.
And really, it's just more fun to be in community.
Well, and so I know that we're well past the pandemic at this point in time, but we're still in a little bit of what this new normal means to us, right? So there's still a lot going on. So I mean, the World Health Organization has actually named isolation and like social isolation as still a pandemic. So like people still are craving that connection, and I think it's actually more dire
Mm.
the younger you are.
Yeah.
So I think that like the kids that came through high school during the pandemic, they missed out on a lot of social, things that would have happened usually. And I think that we need to make sure that we're like lifting each other up. There's more than enough for everyone. So like I think competition is out. I think collaboration is in. I think, the tide raises all boats. And I think that if you have that kind of a focus and focus on relationships, building the relationships, not just with your clients, with your competitors, with, the other people that are in your industry, whether they serve your ideal clients before you or after you. So upstream and downstream. And like, how do you build, like, to your point, Tiffany, like your referral network is really your relationship network. How do you go first? How do you serve best? And like, don't be taken advantage of necessarily, but don't worry so much about that, and like it'll come back to you, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I'm sitting here thinking about like the poor high school kids. But they're a generation that was already having issues of, being on the phone all the time and not connecting in person as much. And it's interesting because I'm, networking. I'm doing most of my networking online and I like it. I get to network with people all around the globe. I'm no longer limited to Tampa. And I'm trying, like, I'm creating, hey, we're doing a neighborhood plant swap. So I started a plant swap this summer in my neighborhood and we're continuing it on. Like, I'm finding non-work things to do the community. And I get to hang out on Zoom all day or restream like today and talk to people around the globe. But it is probably hard for those younger people that hadn't had that previous experience.
Yeah, and it, it depends on, like, again, knowing your ideal client, knowing what their preferences are, like where they're hanging out. Like, I mean, all of that market research that corporations spend millions on to learn about their ideal client, entrepreneurs, small businesses, medium businesses tend not to have. We tend to make a lot of assumptions
Mm.
that everyone is like us. Right? Like I created this business to solve a problem for myself. Most people do. And so everyone should be like me. And that's not actually the case. So, I mean, just to put it in context, like I spent 30 years in market research and consumer insights, qualitative focus groups, quantitative, like the surveys, the discrete choice methodologies, the whole nine yards. I can count on one hand how many times that I guessed an outcome and it was right. How many times that I went into the focus group and went, "Oh, that ad's gonna do it," or that title, or that name for that product, or
Yeah.
that flavor for Pepsi. And like I was almost never right. Like I think I was right like four times ever, like in the history of ever. Like
Hey,
it's
you were at
crazy.
least right a couple of times.
A couple of times, and I'm probably being overly generous, to be honest, on those. But yeah, like I mean, even with like all of the information and going into something like a focus group, you'll still get surprised at what you hear. Consumers actually caring about.
Which is
Um,
why focus groups and all of
yeah.
this makes such a difference, because if we just think it's about us. So what is the website where the people watching can go to learn more about what you do?
Yeah, so I have a new website coming out. So it's still being tweaked, but it's clientintelligenceagency.com. So the
Nice.
CIA, you can become an agent. Um, and that'll be up and running on Monday. But yeah, so stay tuned. Client Intelligence Agency, that is actually going to have, and this is the first time. This is Tiffany's exclusive. There
Spoilers.
is going to be an ideal client profile toolkit that
Ooh.
I have built based on all of my experience in asking questions and asking certain, industry certain things. We have built a toolkit that you can go in and answer a few questions and get a full client profile of your ideal client, of what their pain points are, where they're hanging out, who they're, what they like to do for fun, who like what their family makeup is. So the demographics, the psychographics, the lifestyle, the business, like all of that. And that's free. So,
Ooh, my clients are going to
that's
love that, because module
yeah.
3 of the program that I facilitate is about the ideal client. So they're going to be like, oh, yeah, I got this new
Yeah,
tool to play with.
there we
Awesome.
go.
So speaking of play, because it is Friday fun, so we have to talk about fun, because I'm a big believer of all work and no play makes Tiffany a dull girl. I don't want to be a dull girl. I like to play too. So when it comes to fun, what's fun for you?
So we were talking about this before we came on. I am a sucker for like all things World Cup. So, every 4 years there's a month where Catherine is not available because I'm watching every game that I possibly can. And actually the next World Cup is in North America, so Canada, US, and Mexico. And I'm like already on like the sites for tickets. Like, as soon as tickets
Ooh,
are available, I'll be buying those tickets.
nice.
So I'll be traveling around North America for 2026 during the World Cup. I also love the Olympics. I love, watching the Olympics. And then I live in a very small community. It's a village of about 1,200, but I live on a court or a cul-de-sac, and everyone is because it's a small community, everyone is really super friendly and super tight. So I mean, often I'll be at my neighbors like next door, like sitting in the driveway, having some coffees or some beers or whatever, and just enjoying outside and just hanging out with the neighbors. It's kind of fun.
Nice. And it's great that you're able to do that community. I'm not very out and about, I'm working on being better. But like, I love the idea of being able to just, hey, let's go to my neighbors and chit chat. Now, I'm
Yeah.
curious because my husband and I are beer people. We do Brewing Up Business as our event once a month. What kind of beer do you like?
You know what? Okay, so here's full disclosure. I love beer. I loved beer. I loved it a little too much. I was kind of like, if it had been an Olympic sport, I would have like won a gold medal. My doctors didn't think that that was a good idea anymore,
Oh,
so I actually do not consume alcohol anymore.
okay.
So I do the near beer idea. So the Heineken 0%,
Yeah.
or the Corona 0%. You know what? They're not terrible. They're not bad. They've come a long
Not
way since the
terrible.
days
Great
of O'Doul.
endorsement.
Well, like back in the day when, like, oh, it was terrible. So it's actually quite it's quite refreshing. But yeah, I would back in the day when I was drinking beer, I would have taken a heart.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Love it. Love it.
Yes.
All right. So my other question I had from you is what were your personal highlights and favorites from the Olympics that, we just wrapped up? It's so much fun. I love the Olympics. It's like, here's what I can put on TV for 2 weeks and watch and explore. And there's countries I've never even heard of. What are some of your highlights from the Olympics?
Well, so the Canadians did very well in the pool,
Hmm.
and so Summer McIntosh, she won several medals. She's 17, from this area actually, and so loved watching that. I enjoyed the opening ceremonies. What I kind of got not sucked into, but I couldn't understand like all of the ridiculousness that came out of, like, oh, they, the Bible or this or that and the other thing. And I was like, you know what? God is busy. And I don't think that like really like spending so much time psychoanalyzing the opening games was necessarily a good use of time, in my humble opinion. But I tend to take that note on a lot of things. And I just, like, I just love the like seeing these kids really um achieve their dreams. Like they've worked so hard for so many years, and to be able to participate and to excel. Yeah, it's motivating.
Yeah, it is. Sometimes it's kind of that anticlimactic of I've worked all my life for this and here I am. But it's like what an amazing goal and such a small, like, even the people that don't win, like, they're the best in the world. And
Yeah,
to get to be there and compete and say I went to the Olympics.
yeah, yeah. I kind of, and there's always an underdog story, and gotta love those. And yeah, so I mean, it's just I can just, yeah, I could just watch it all. So
I know it's interesting. In 2012, we were, so there's a couple that we travel with frequently, our friends Chris and Stacy, and we were in Boston, but we watched the Olympics. This year we were in Denver and we watched a lot of the Olympics. I actually texted them the other day. I'm like, so where are we going in 2028 to watch the Olympics? Like, I don't actually want to go to the Olympics. More power to you going to the World Cup. I'm like, I don't need all the crowds. I'm like, can we go to like somewhere with a pool bar with a TV so we can just watch the Olympics from the pool
yeah.
all day long.
Well, I think, isn't 2028 in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm not like big on the crowds and the, like, to me it just seems like a lot of work and there'd be a lot going on. So I'm the type, I'm like, if we want to go to this concert, how many thousands of people are going to be there? Fine. Maybe I'll change my mind by then, but yeah, I
Well,
like to watch it.
the pool bar idea either. Like, I mean, as long as they have my 0%, I'm there. Like invite me.
Yeah. So speaking of inviting, y'all, I hope you're enjoying our conversation today. Now, Catherine's going to be joining us again on Tuesday for the More Abundant Entrepreneur show. She's got 30 minutes where she's going to talk to us about what? What are we going to be talking about, Catherine? Like, do I need to remind you what we're going to be talking about, or do you know?
Now that you've said that, I'm not sure. I might be throwing you a fall. But I do believe it's really about ditching lead
Mhm.
generation and switching to client attraction. And I know that we just talked about not being as focused on acquisition. I'm not, but by the same token, I'm not saying zero focus on acquisition. So knowing your ideal client and understanding how to utilize that information, because just getting a report is not going to help you if you don't actually know what exactly to do with that information. So we're going to go through a little bit of that, and really understand again how to start that relationship and start that conversation with your ideal clients right from the get-go, so that you are attracting the best and releasing the rest, because there's somebody else's best, and that's fine. Like, make sure that you're talking to the people that are for you, and that you are for, and not wasting time on a whole bunch of tire kickers and brain pickers, because that just sucks the soul out of the entrepreneur, and it wastes time for the clients, and it bottlenecks for your ideal clients to actually find you. So let's make it a win-win-win all around, so that you're getting the right people. The right people are finding you, and you're releasing the people that aren't good for you to go find the person that is for them, because there is somebody out there for them. And if it's not me, off you go. That's brilliant. Like, like we don't have to continue this conversation. Off, find your person. That's all I say. At least find your person. You know.
Yeah, I find that, I mean, when you first start business, you're so desperate to pay the bills, you take everyone. And that's just how it is. To me, when you mature in your business and you're creating your success, yes, you want the right people. Now, I didn't catch, so I was writing down because I love this. Tire kickers and brain pickers. Was that what it
Yeah.
was? Oh, that's brilliant, because we don't need them in our world. We need people that are going to pay us. The tire kickers and brain pickers can go to our website and go to our YouTube channel and watch us online. They don't need to take up the time in our world if they're not going to be clients.
Well, and not only that, but those are the relationships that are, energy vampires. So you like I have had in both corporate and in my entrepreneurial life, I've had to fire clients.
Mm,
And like it one bad client can ruin a lot of your days. So
yeah.
yes, I understand. I completely understand. Believe me, I understand. I have to get a client. I have to pay the mortgage. I have to, like, oh my God, like everything's coming due. I get it. I just need this client. But I've also been on the other side where I've taken that client and, 8 months later, still like, I can't, I can't, like, it's, and you get to a point where it's not worth the, like, it's just not worth, like, there's no amount of money that's worth putting yourself through something like a bad situation, not for you and not for them.
Right. Yeah, I totally get it. It's one of those joys as an entrepreneur when you finally get to the point in your business where you don't have to take every client to
Yeah.
survive. That's definitely one of those
Well,
milestones that I don't think most people probably track, but it is a serious thing.
and it goes back to that relationship building, right? Like, is this the person that you want a relationship with?
Yeah.
Because if it's not, then don't take their money, because that's a transaction. Right? So if you're more focused on the transaction than you are on the relationship, you're gonna end up having people that can throw your whole group off. Like, your group
Yeah.
program can, like, here's the deal, folks. You're the gatekeeper. Like, you are the gatekeeper for your ideal clients. You only want the people that are gonna fit together, fit with you, help each other. Like, again, the tide raises all boats. You throw one or two bad apples in there, and your whole group coaching program can go south.
Yeah.
Like, people will stop showing up. Oh, like, that person is coming? No, thanks. Like, I'm just not gonna. I just don't want to hear them, or they monopolize too much time, or whatever. So you need to be the gatekeeper, and you need to be hardcore about it. Both, like, from the sense of, I want a relationship with this person, but also I have to protect the relationships that I have, and the people that I have. Like, I mean, if you go mama or papa bear with your business, like you'll get the right people in there, and they will appreciate the fact that you're a gatekeeper.
Yeah. There's one gal that I've known for years, and she would totally pay whatever my highest paying program is if I just asked her. And I'm like, I can't ask her. She would drive me nuts. She would drive the community. And she's a very nice lady. She's just not the right flavor for me. And sometimes I use the example sometimes about beer and, what's the right flavor for the people or the networking group. And just because, it's not that people are bad or a networking group's bad, it's just not always the right flavor for us.
Yeah.
Now, as we go to wrap up, 2 questions I'm going to ask you in a minute. Any last words you want to share with the audience? Before that, will you share us that website again that will be coming August 19th, I think, where we can go get our ideal client toolkit and figure that out?
Yeah, so it's Client Intelligence Agency, all one word, .com. So
Love it.
CIA, Client Intelligence Agency. Don't go to the other one. That won't be funny.
Any last words you want to leave our watching audience with?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is don't assume. Ask, but ask with intention. So if you're going to ask questions, make sure that you are actually following up with the answers, and looking at the answers, and taking the information in, making changes, or doing whatever you need to do. Like, why are you asking the question? And what are you going to do with those answers? Because if you don't know what you're going to do with the answers, then don't ask, because people are going to know that you're just like, putting out questions out there, and nothing ever comes of it. So don't assume, but ask with intention.
Gotcha. Catherine, I want to say thank you so very much for being with us today, sharing your wisdom, talking a little bit about your fun with the World Cup and the Olympics, and just hanging out with people in the community in the cul-de-sac. It has been a pleasure getting to chat with you today. Y'all, on Monday, be sure to check out her CIA website. In the meantime, she does have Catherine O'Leary if you want to check her out. And I'm assuming we can find you on LinkedIn pretty easily.
Absolutely. Quiz Queen.
Is Catherine with an A, like the first A is normal. Is the second A, is that like a Canadian thing? Because in America, it's usually an E.
It's actually usually an E most places, but my mother says it's after Saint Catherine, which is an A. I think she spelt it wrong, but that's a whole Thanksgiving conversation that happens every year.
All right, so we've got Catherine with 2 A's. We've got Tiffanie with the IE. Let's just be different. I do have to say it makes us easier to find on social for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, all y'all watching out there on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, it's been a pleasure spending this Friday morning with y'all, and hopefully you'll join Catherine and